It was an ordinary Tuesday morning in Japan. People were grabbing their coffee, kids were heading to school, and salarymen were packing into trains. Just another day. And then every phone in the country screamed at once. A government alert. One sentence. A missile has been launched. Take shelter immediately. Think about that for a second. You're standing on a train platform in Tokyo. You have no idea where to go. You don't know if this is a drill. You don't know if this is the real thing. And you have maybe minutes, maybe less, to figure it out. That's exactly what happened. And the missile? It didn't land in the ocean quietly. It flew over Japan, over civilian airspace, over millions of people's heads. Before we go any further, if you're new here, hit that like button and subscribe right now. Because we cover the stories that actually matter. The ones that don't just stay in the headlines but creep into your backyard, whether you're in London, Sydney, or Los Angeles. This is one of those stories. Stay with me. So let's back up. North Korea fired a ballistic missile, and not a short-range one. This was an intermediate-range ballistic missile, the Hwasong series, built specifically to cover long distances at terrifying speed. It launched from the western coast of North Korea, climbed to an altitude of over 1,000 kilometers. That's above the orbit of the International Space Station. And then came screaming back down through the atmosphere, traveling over Hokkaido in northern Japan before splashing into the Pacific Ocean. The entire flight lasted roughly 22 minutes. 22 minutes from launch to impact. That's less time than it takes to watch an episode of a sitcom. That's the window the world had. Now here's what people in Japan actually saw. Reports came in of residents in Hokkaido stepping outside and looking up at the sky. Some of them actually seeing a trail of light cutting across the pre-dawn darkness before the alert even finished loading on their phones. One woman interviewed by local media said she grabbed her children and ran to the bathroom because she didn't know what else to do. There's no missile bunker on her street. There's no protocol she'd rehearsed. She just ran. That image, a mother, her kids, a bathroom, that's what this actually looks like on the ground. Strip away the military jargon, the geopolitical chess game, the diplomatic statements, and it comes down to that. Japan's government activated its J-Alert system, a nationwide emergency broadcast that goes to every television, every radio, and every mobile phone simultaneously. Bullet trains across northern Japan were halted. Residents were told to stay indoors or get underground. The alert read like something out of a Cold War nightmare, and for millions of people it absolutely felt that way. Here's where it gets even more serious. This wasn't the first time North Korea fired a missile over Japan. It happened in 2017 as well. But this launch went further and flew on a flatter trajectory, which in missile terms is actually more dangerous. A flatter arc means it's harder to intercept. Japan's Patriot missile defense systems were on high alert, but interception was never attempted. The window was too short. The angle was too difficult. South Korea responded within minutes, launching its own missiles into the sea as a show of force. The United States condemned the launch. NATO issued a statement. The United Nations Security Council called an emergency meeting. And Kim Jong-un? He called it a perfect weapons test. That word, perfect, is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Because what North Korea just demonstrated is that it can put a missile over a close U.S. ally, on short notice with zero warning, in a way that current defense systems struggle to counter. So why should you care about this sitting in Manchester or Melbourne or Miami? Because this isn't just Japan's problem. Not even close. Let's talk about what North Korea is actually building toward. Because this missile test wasn't random. Wasn't impulsive. Every single launch Kim Jong-un orders is a calculated message, and this one was louder than most. North Korea has been steadily advancing its ICBM program, intercontinental ballistic missiles weapons, designed to travel not hundreds but thousands of miles. Weapons designed to reach the continental United States. Analysts who track these programs for a living will tell you that North Korea is no longer in the early stages of this technology. They're refining it. They're stress testing it. And every time the world watches and does nothing permanent, they get a little more confident. Here's something that doesn't get said enough. North Korea has conducted more missile tests in the last 3 years than in the previous decade combined. Read that again. More tests in 3 years than in 10. That's not a country dabbling in military posturing. That's a country on an accelerated weapons development schedule. And the timing of this particular launch? It wasn't accidental either. It came during joint U.S.-South Korea military exercises, large-scale drills that Pyongyang has always viewed as a direct provocation. North Korea's response was essentially, "You practice invading us, we'll remind you what we're capable of." Now let's talk about the bigger picture, because there are three players in this story that most people overlook: China, Russia, and the United Nations. China shares a border with North Korea and has historically been its biggest economic lifeline. Beijing has repeatedly blocked stronger UN sanctions against Pyongyang. Every time the Security Council tries to tighten the screws, China, and increasingly Russia, water it down or veto it entirely. So the international community's ability to economically pressure North Korea has been significantly weakened, especially since the Russia-Ukraine war reshuffled global alliances. Russia, meanwhile, has been accused of receiving artillery shells from North Korea for use in Ukraine. In exchange, some analysts believe technology transfers are happening, the kind that could accelerate North Korea's missile and satellite programs. It's murky, it's hard to prove, but the pattern is there. What this means practically is that North Korea is operating in an environment where the traditional tools of international pressure, sanctions, isolation, diplomatic condemnation, are less effective than they've ever been. Kim Jong-un knows this. He's been watching the world get distracted, and he's been working. For the people of Japan, this isn't abstract geopolitics. It's a lived reality. Japan has been building out its defense capabilities rapidly, acquiring long-range strike weapons for the first time since World War II, increasing its defense budget to levels not seen in modern Japanese history. A country that has been constitutionally pacifist for decades is now rearming because it has to. Australia has skin in this game too. The AUKUS agreement, the nuclear-powered submarine deal between Australia, the UK, and the United States, exists precisely because of the threat environment in the Indo-Pacific. North Korea is part of that equation. So is China's growing naval presence. The region is shifting, and the missile that flew over Japan is one more data point in a very concerning trend line. The bottom line is this: North Korea just sent a message to every Western-aligned nation on Earth. It flew that message over Japan at hypersonic speed, at an altitude above the space station, in 22 minutes flat. The question isn't whether the world noticed. It did. The question is what happens next time. If this video gave you something to think about, hit the like button, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe, because the story is far from over, and we'll be here when the next chapter drops.